Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how to reference an object within Storyline using JavaScript in a better way than I've showed you in the past. I have a lot of videos, you can check them out here on JavaScript and different snippets on how to animate certain objects using crane sock and everything like that. You can check those out. And what I did in the past is I actually referenced an object. And when I say reference, is basically in JavaScript like, hey, you, on the stage, I'm talking to you, and that is a way to identify an object and then to add behavior to that object. And that's really part of JavaScript, is being able to talk to whatever object is on the website or on the stage or content. Keep in mind that I know there was a couple questions a couple weeks ago about this, of like, how does JavaScript even play into Storyline? When you create content that is played on Safari or Chrome or Firefox or anything like that, it's essentially a website because it involves HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, HTML is the basic structure, CSS is the style, and JavaScript is the behavior. So when you want the website to act in a certain way, you add on a behavior, and that's really what JavaScript is. So Storyline is the same way. When we want to go out of the box of what comes out of Storyline and we want to add behavior, then we're going to go ahead and use JavaScript. Now, the triggers inside of Storyline is essentially behavior. We're adding custom JavaScript behind the scenes that is taking care of everything else. And so it's important to understand that, because when we start to add on our own custom JavaScript, we're basically working with a website, we're working with this e-learning course. So let's go ahead and explain exactly what I was doing before. And if I would come into the accessibility right here, as I would add on this alternate text. And when I added on that alternate text, I had to reference that text, which I'm going to go ahead and just bring that code up right here. So give me a second. If I wanted to talk to that object inside of some JavaScript, I would have to add on and execute JavaScript here. And let me go down to execute JavaScript right here, close that out, and I'm going to go ahead and just paste in that. So what's happening here, some people pointed this out too, we don't need a query selector all, we're not selecting every single thing, but we're just finding a specific object. Now inside of there, anytime you add on like accessibility text, it gets added on as an attribute in HTML, and that's where you see that square here. So the concern was, how do I reference this if I have several words inside of the accessibility text? Because obviously I don't want to get rid of the accessibility text. I could type in something like, this is a square, or something like that. And that would still work if your accessibility text is exactly that. It's looking for that, whatever accessibility text is here. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. There is a different way to do this, and I don't know if this was in a recent release when they added the annotation or the emphasis animations. I noticed that there was a way to be able to see an ID, a specific ID that gets added to an object. Now I'm going to actually share what that ID is, but I'm going to go ahead and just copy in some code, and this code is going to just reference this object right here, this ID, and I'll show you how I actually got this ID. And we probably don't want to have, I actually misspelled that. We probably don't even want to use var. This is JavaScript. So I'm going to actually come in here, and it just has in my old code that reference. I'm just going to say constant. I can do constant, or I can do let. Either way, that works. Constant is if you're basically creating a variable that is pointing to this object. And constant is if you're not going to change the value of the variable during, like, down the line. That will just change or stay that one variable. Now, the let allows me to create the variable, but then change it down the road. So that's really where the difference is if I use const or let. The recommendation, though, in JavaScript is to get away from just using var as like the creating a variable. Anyway, so this is what has changed right here. Instead of referencing the accessibility text, we're actually going to reference the model ID. Now notice if I click OK here and I go ahead and just run this, I can run JavaScript right inside of Storyline now. So this is amazing. Oh, I forgot to add one. No, I did add that. Let me go ahead and preview this again real quick. So I'm going to hit this slide, preview this slide. And when I click on it, what this code will do is it will hide the object. Even though I didn't put a hide inside of the Java or inside of the trigger, which I could do, but it's just to show you that I can point to this object and I can communicate with this object through JavaScript. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this and notice that it just goes away. Why does it go away? So let's go back into our JavaScript code, and I'm talking to this document.querySelector. So really the only difference is this model ID, and I'll show you how to get that ID here soon. But then I added on a style.display-none. Simple little JavaScript to just basically say hide. And that's just to let you know that I'm talking to that object. All right, so let's go in and compare this to what we were doing before. So I'm going to click on cancel here, and I'm going to go ahead and add on another execute JavaScript here. And I'm going to go ahead and reference this like I did before. And I'm going to create a variable here. So I'm doing the document query selector, and we're going to use the data model ID. And then because Storyline has GreenSock included or GSAP included, I can then add on what other JavaScript code that I want to. So in my previous videos showing you how to animate using GreenSock, it's still, you can do this instead of actually referencing the accessibility text is pretty much what I'm trying to show you here. You can do the model ID to target a specific thing. And that's helpful in case you change the accessibility text down the road. The model ID is not going to change it unless I completely delete it and then add a new object. Then I'm talking to a completely different object, and I'll have to figure out what the model ID is down the road. But I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then click OK here. Now, just previewing this inside of Storyline here, what's going to happen is it's going to animate that object. So it is referencing that object, which is the square, and it is animating the percentage, the Y percentage, that's why it moves down, and it is rotating it as well. So just a different way. If you want to use the accessibility text, that's great. But for those of you who had the concerns about messing up the accessibility text or changing the accessibility text, use the model ID. Now let me show you how to get to that model ID because it is a little troublesome, but I'm going to show you a little bit of a hack. And if somebody knows a better way to do this, I am all ears here. But in order to actually see the model ID, let me actually go back to the preview here. And there's a couple different ways. You have to go find the object inside of HTML. And inside of that object, you can then reference the ID. Now I could publish this out and I can use like some tools in Chrome or Safari that are a little bit better. But I'm going to show you here just to kind of where to target this down to, because again, it's not the most user-friendly here. So clicking on inspect does pull up some dev tools, and these are the same dev tools that we get with Chrome and we get with Safari. But with Chrome and Safari, I can actually select on the stage a little bit easier, but I'm going to show you where this is at. So this is inside of the iframe and then inside of documents, and we're going to have to drill down to get to this ID. And really what I'm looking for is when I hover over something in the HTML here, it's basically going to highlight once I get down to that square. Again, this is the hard way. I'm going to show you an easy way here in a second. But I'm going to go down to HTML. I'm going to go down to body here. And then I'm just going to keep hovering over until I can kind of see where the highlights is. And I believe it is under the, I think still body here, but let's go under slide loader. And then, no, not slide loader. There we go. So it's under this focus sync here. So this Prezzo, I think that's the one I was looking for. So Prezzo, the ID Prezzo right there. And then as I start to hover over it, I'll see the media loader container and then the wrapper here. So I'm going to go into the wrapper, then I go into the frame. Then now I'm down to the slide. So it took some like figuring out to get to where this was at. So this is why it's the painful way. But I'm going to go ahead and select that, expand that out, get down to the slide container. And I could probably even search for it if I wanted to once you get to know it. But that's actually the styles, but there is a way to search within here. So I'm going to go into the slide container, slide window container, overflow, transition container. And I'm basically just drilling down until I get to the blue highlight here. So let me expand this out. And there we go. I think we're getting down to it almost. We have the base layer right here. Great. And there we go. So now it's starting to highlight some of it, but I can't see the object because it's highlighting what's below this right here until I get to this part right here. This is the ID. Now, if I look inside of this code, you see this data model ID. That's where I got the number. So now I'm able to target specifically that item. That was a long way. And if you wanted to, let me try to actually even search for this. And I don't want to search for, this might be a little bit different depending on the object, but maybe I can search for something like slide window container. I'm going to copy that right here. And I didn't practice this, so I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, so if you search for like slide window container, let me try to reload this and search for just that. So I don't have to drill it all the way down. I'll just do Command F or Control F, just paste that in, and there we go. That's probably a little bit easier way to get to it, so you don't actually have to drill it all the way down. Now, I would still drill it from there because it depends on the object that you used. Again, I'm going to show you an easier way, so just hold on here. But I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and that is where I come into my code, and I would replace this part that's inside of the quotes. We know that it needs to be data model ID, and I would replace whatever that code is in order to target. So it's a different way, and the only reason why I'm pointing this out is because some people have asked in my comments, and I'm listening to your comments. If you have comments, check those or make a comment down below. And some people have asked about, what if I don't want to target accessibility? This is the way that you do that. So let's go ahead and find out the easier way. The easier way, you do have to do one extra step here, but if you go into this item right here, and this is where they added the different emphasis animations. And in the emphasis animations, if I add one here, watch what happens when I actually publish this out. What I have to do is, in order to see this, I do have to publish it out. So I'm going to publish this to my desktop. Now I do run Parallels on a Mac, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up inside of a text editor. Now this is where I could come in and I could customize the code before. So before Storyline implemented the inspect, I had to go into the code and I had to publish it out and preview it that way. But inside of here, once it's all published, inside of the user.js, if I go ahead and pull this up inside of a text editor, let me bring this over here, you'll notice that it has a reference to that ID right here. And that same ID, because I added an emphasis animation, it actually pulls that ID out for me. I wish there was a way to be able to see that without having to add the emphasis animation. If somebody can figure that part out, great. I'll keep looking for that as well. Or if Storyline down the road implements that, I'll go ahead and update this video. That is probably the easier way to be able to do that. And then you could come back into here under the execute JavaScript and get that ID right there. So that is a way to be able to identify the object without having to use the accessibility text. So for those of you who did not want to use the accessibility text or just keep the accessibility text for accessibility, this is probably a better way to do it. And so that data model ID is really what you're looking for. And in order to really see it, you can add on an entrance or an emphasis animation in order to see that. If you want to check out more and see all of the code and the snippets that I've used in the past, you can head on over to my website at learningdojo.ninja. Here you can check out all the previous blog posts, you can download free templates, and if you're new, you can check out full courses for everything from A to Z in Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Camtasia, Articulate Rise, Custom SCORM, or HTML5 video. Thank you for everyone that commented on that they wanted to get a full JavaScript course. I am starting to plan that. Hopefully it's not going to take too long, but I do have some other things that I'm working on to try to finish now, and then I can get started on that JavaScript and Storyline course. That way, if you're a complete newbie to JavaScript, I'll get you up to speed on that, and then we'll talk about more stuff like this and go step by step. If you like this content, head on over to YouTube, click that like button and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That helps the algorithm, allows me to continue to create these videos for you and help you really become the best learning developer that you can be inside of tools like Storyline and Camtasia and other things like that. But that's all I have for today. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.